Good evening, Zimbabwe. Welcome to our Livetalk program, the Women's Roundtable, where we discuss issues affecting women this Thursday, December the 8th, 2021. I'm your host, Praxedes Jeremiah. In today's program, we are focusing on what women are doing to survive in Zimbabwe, as well as outside the country, on the backdrop of this pandemic, the COVID-19 era. Pakunopera kwezuva ranezuro 8 December 2021, muZimbabwe mange mane vanhu vanodarika zviuru zana nechidimbu 150,628 confirmed cases vange vakavhenekwa vakawanikwa vaine COVID-19. Asiwo pauwandu ihwohwo pane 129,095 vakapora mushure mekurwara chirwere ichi. Nekudokawo kwezuva zvekare nezuro, pane vanhu vanodarika zviuru 10 nechimwe 11,271 vakanga vabayiwa jekiseni rekudzivirira chirwere ichi, first dose yavo. Pakaitawo vanodarika zviuru 15 zvekare vakabayiwa second jab, vanhu vaivo 15,183. Iko zvino tikatarisa kuti vanhu vangani vakawana majekiseni kana kuti vakabayiwa majekiseni iwaya ekudzivirira chirwere, vanoda kusvika mamiliyoni 3, 2.9 million ndivo vakawana majekiseni ose ari maviri. Asi vakabayiwawo jekiseni rekutanga chete vanodawo kusvika pamamiliyoni 4, 3.9 million vakabayiwa first jab. Tabva paCovid-19 ipapo, chiregai ndichidaidza vadare vangu vaviri vanova ivo mai Sharai kana kuti muzvare Sharai, pamwe chete ivo vari kuCanada. Ndikagoitawo zvekare munyarikani ari kuMatebeleland vari kuBulawayo, mai Sifiso Ndlovu Mandlovu ndovanenge tichitaura navo tichiita hurukuro yedu, tichisanganisa apo nepapo tichiona chirungu nechindevele pamwe chete. Makosikazi, uhlelo lwenu namhlanje nginxuse omama ababili, abesifazane ababili ubana bazongincedisa kuhlelo lwethu lolamhlanje. Ngilo unkosikazi uSifiso Ndlovu uMandlovu kanye ke lo nkosikazi Sharai Masanganise, yena ke useCanada, uMandlovu ekoBulawayo. Wothani singene kungxoxo yethu. So asiqale ngawe Mandlovu. Wena ke ulama projects amathile, Businesswoman. Ungasithi fahla ngamafitshane ukuthi vele kathi yena uSifiso Ndlovu ivitikazi lika
Agbetorwoka.
Enjalo uqalisele ngaphi ibhizimusi yakho?
Okay. Mina ngiSifiso Ndlovu Agbetorwoka. Ngahlala UK for 24 years. Ngatraina as nurse. I did mental health nursing. Ngithe sembona iminyaka esimningi kakhulu sengifuna ukuphumula ku-nursing. Ngase ngibuya ekhaya ngo-2011. Sengiqala ke i-business yokuba ngufama. Ngile story sami enjalo ukusishare labantu ukuthi mina ngathi ngingena ngilamadlabuzane. Ngaqala ke ngeproject yami 10,000 ama broiler.
Usebenzelana labanye abesifazana na abakubhizimusi linye kumbe abayenza i-goat ranching?
Embuzini ayibe ngingaqalisi specifically for omama, kodwa ngiyenza njalo inkomo. Kubo mama silayo i-cooperative yethu yabo mama esayiqalisa ngo-2020 khona phana i-COVID imemetheka. Saqala i-business, safoma i-cooperative yabo mama okuthiwa yizibane. I-cooperative leyi ngiyokuthenga inkomo amahefa. Layo is a breeding business. Lapho futhi siyenza i-breeding more than okwenyama. Sifuna ukuproduce ama-breeds amahle. Ukubana lathi sithengisele abanye abantu ababefuna ukungena ku-business yenkomo. So lokho yikho engikwenzayo labanye omama, sabamba labanye omama, saqala singabangani singu-4 ama-founder members, kodwa khathesi sesingu-16. Sisebenza ndawonye over 2 years. Saqalisa it's almost 2 years ngoba saqalisa ngo-2020. So ngo-2022 ngo-February sabe sesile 2 years siku-business yona leyi eyokufuya inkomo for e-breeding as a cooperative yabo mama okuthiwa yizibane.
Izibane. Kulincede okungakanani ukuthi lihlanganyele ndawonye lisebenza ndawonye kule i-cooperative yenkomo?
Kusincede kakhulu ukubambana lokusebenza as a collective. Inkomo unlike imbuzi naturally ziyadura ukuthenga. Nxa ngile $50 ngiyakwanisa ukuthenga imbuzi ngiyimi ngedwa, but nxa ngile $50 angenelisi ukuthenga inkomo ngingedwa. So yikho esakwenzayo ukuthi ukuba libumba siyaphathisana kwezemali, siyaphathisana njalo kweze knowledge, ngoba akukho umuntu oyedwa ongabe kwazi zonke indlela zokufuya inkomo. Ngingathi egroupini yona leyi maybe singu 3 or 4 esingani sile experience yokufuya inkomo, kodwa samukela abanye omama abathi bona hayi sile Sifiso sibili zokungena ehlelweni lokufuya inkomo, kodwa asila maplazi, asila ndlela, asila experience yokufuya inkomo. Sabamukela abanye omama, sifundisana, sibonisana indlela. Ngakho kulula ukusebenza lindawonye, liqoqa izimali ndawonye, akusindi umuntu oyedwa. And njalo lama responsibilities liyawashare. Akukhangelelanga umuntu oyedwa ukuthi nguye siyahlala siyakhangela inkomo, siyanikana ama-duty okuyakhangela inkomo nxa sisenza izinto ezinjengabo tagging, kumbe sihlaba ama-vaccine, kumbe njalo inkomo iyagula, asomlando womuntu oyedwa. Kumbe njalo kungaba khona ukuthi kumbe kulomkhuhlane kumbe inkomo isifile, ilosi leyo asiyo yomuntu oyedwa. Angithi so liya share, you share the risk as well as the profits. And loku nikana what we call emotional support. So ukusincede kakhulu. Saqalisa nje sithenga inkomo 2 a month. Isikhathi singakayikhatshana sabona sesile 6, sesile 8, sesile 12, sesile 20, khathesi sesile 25.
Zuzo ke ukuthi lithole lithengisa inyama, uchago, ini sibili?
Thina siyabe sithengisa esithi ngama-steer. Angithi ngitshilo ukuthi sifuna thina ukuthengisa ikakhulu as a breeding. Nxa zizinhle kuphuma inkunzi enhle, kulapho imali engani ingcono khona ekuthengiseni inkunzi enhle. Leyo nkunzi yabe ingani ayinhle yiyo esithengiswa ingani yenyama. Omama hayi omama sibathengisa unless bazi babe izalukazi, then sebengathengiswa babe yinyama.
Ngathanda ukuthi babuye labo bazohlanganyela. Lisemangweni uphi?
Bengathintana lami ku-Facebook bezwe ukuthi kufunekani ukubana umuntu ajoyine leyo cooperative. but siyabamukela kuvulekile sibili ukuthi abanye omama basijoyele ukuze lathi sikhule ngobunengi njalo kungabi exclusive club but i-club i-cooperative evulekileyo ukubana abanye omama labo babuye sikhuleni sonke sifundisane nini sikhulise isizwe sethu ngoba umuntu eyedwa angeke akukwanise ukuphumelela.
Likhava uma nguphi sibili lapho elisebenzela khona?
Thina sisebenzela eMatabeleland. Okwamanje siseMatabeleland South. Kodwa asisoze sizilimit. Nxa kuyikuthi bakhona abanye omama abangabuthana babe liqembu loba kuyiphi i-region yeMatabeleland sizimisela ukusebenza labo. Ngoba kuhle ngesikhiwa or in business city is spreading i-risk. Alifuni ukuthi liphonga kuba indawo one ngoba kungangena umkhuhlane esigabeni uya affecta umhlambi wonke.
Hayi ucacile sibili. iMat South sikhuluma ngabogwanda oflabusi
Plumtree
zonke lezi ndawo. Ngakho ke nxa sesikhuluma ngenyakatho yeMatabeleland sikhuluma
north sesikhuluma kubolupane umbango between iBulawayo City Lupane kuboCholocho sisiya kubo Victoria Falls khonale
kubonkayi eBinga
ikakhulu eBinga siyafisa kakhulu ukusebenza ikakhulu eBinga siyafisa ukuthi sihambane labo mama khona lesiqalisa i-cooperative yenkomo. Why? Ngoba ngale inkomo ziyathengeka intengo yakhona inhle and nxa omama singasebenza khona ngale we can run a profitable business.
Ngiyakathi uthi fahla ngesingisi wothi ngiyamukele Miss Sharai Muzharefa Sharai makadinenyu
ndiripo makadiko
imi muri ku Canada tiudzeyo nyaya yenyu zvakarekera kumadzimai.
Okay. Nyaya yangu iri kurerekera kumadzimai ndeyekuti ndichambotaura mbichana nezvangu inini as a woman. Saka ndakambogarawo ku UK. Asi ndakazobva ikoko ndikauya kuno Canada. And ndiri muno muCanada for more than 20 years. Ndaimboshanda ku one of the big Canadian banking institutions for almost 15 years. Asi kune zvinhu zvakawanda zvaindinetsa semunhukadzi mutema ane immigrant. Saka ndaida kuziva kuti chii ichochi chinondiitisa kuti ndirege kuva recognized pabasa panapa. Saka ndakazofunga zvokudzokera kuchikoro. Saka iko zvino ndiri paUniversity of Toronto and muna September ndiri kunoita PhD yangu. And zvakandivhurisa stereki zvinhu zvandakadzidza zvimwe ku undergraduate neku masters. Something to do with feminism, women. Chinhu chandisina kutora seriously kudhara, but pandakazoona kuti it's so disturbing kuti in this world, one, we don't have many women who are leading countries. Mostly are men. And chimwe chinondinetsa sokumusha kwedu ku Zimbabwe uku inyaya yemadzimai vari mumarural areas. And ndakanyasoona panyaya madzimai vanorambana nevarume vavo, then woudzwa kuti dzokerai kupi kumusha kwenyu, and anodzokera asina kana chinhu. Ane vana, akavaka imba pamusha ipapo nomurume wake, asi panodzokera anongodzokera pamwe akaita laki nehembe, akarega kudaro anongotiza pamwe usiku nokuti of abuse yanoona mumusha imomo. And ndanchitofunga zvokuti ndoda kuita research patopic iyoyi, ndione kuti chii chaicho chingaitika panyaya idzodzi dzemadzimai ivava vemarural areas, because vemuurban vari nani, kune law anoenda kucourt, but wemumusha uya munhu ari so depressed and hakuna help futi. But pandakatarisa literature kuti vangani vakamboita research munyaya iyoyi, handisati ndamboona one paper written about these women, asi vanofirwa yes there is, kune literature, but imwe hakuna. Ndanzwa my colleague, I understand, ndanchingopika 1 or 2 words there, because I'm not fluent in Ndebele anyway. Vachitaura nenyaya dzemabusiness, yes togona kuadvocate for businesses, but what about this woman ari murural area? How do we bring them together? Tinounza sei pamwe chete and have someone kuti ashande naye now, because tinoona kuti maybe vanhu vakawanda vanomonita izvozvo vanenge vachibva mutown vachienda kupi kuruzeva kunoona kuti chii chiri kuitika, but havagari mucommunity imomo.
Saka kuti tinge chivasanganisirawo.
And we need to uplift them. And there are so many issues in regards to a rural woman, not in Zimbabwe only, but in Africa as a whole.
What mbuyele kuwe nkosikazi, ndikubate imromo ipapo. Mbuyele kuwe nkosikazi Sifiso, ukuthi Mandlovu lina ku cooperative yenyu kukhanya ngani lihlanganise omama abasemaplazini, like lakhangela na omama laba abasemaphandleni?
Isifiso sethu ukuphela sisebenza labo mama abasemaphandleni.
Miss Sharai, saka kudzokera kuchikoro uku muri kuronga kuti muzoita sei kana mapedza PhD yenyu?
Ndogona kuronga kuti ndozvandoda kuita, but kana wapedza it all depends kuti resources ariko ere, direction yacho iriko ere.
Asi tarisiro yenyu?
Tarisiro yangu ndeyekuti ndidzokere kumusha and kuadvocate or empowerment, as my colleague said. Mostly I would focus on rural women, because ndotoona kuti avana much representation. Those are the ones ndovandinoda kufocus on.
Pari zvino pane zvimwe here zvamuri kuita zvekusimudzira madzimai?
Ndingataura kuti not really, because last year ndandiri kumusha, ndandiri kuZimbabwe for 3 months. This year ndandiri kuZimbabwe 2.5 months. But nenyaya yeCovid, zvainetsa even to penetrate into anything there. But just kuti nditaure zvishomanene about my own mother. My own mother was a teacher, a school teacher. My dad passed away a few years ago. Saka vari kuchengeta huku. And isusu vana tiri kuona kuti hapana neprofit yavari kuita pahuku dzacho idzodzo. Totiregerai, but ndotofunga kuti why she's not making profit inyaya yekuti market no problem iri kuZimbabwe. Even not my mom only, but even vamwe vanhu vandoona hama neshamwari dziri mubusiness. Market iri very limited or iri saturated. Munhu wana akaita huku, maybe raini yese ichaita huku. Saka iyo nyaya yekuempower and showing madzimai direction kuti chakati ndo chinogona kuita kutipa mari nokuti ndo yatiri kuda, or we work with the government kuti tibatsiraiwo kuwana market.
Ndo zvatotaurwa izvozvi naMandlovu kuti ivo pavakabva kuUK vakatotanga nehuku, hanzi vakatenga 10,000 vachifunga kuti vachawanawo $10,000, asi vakasvikopiwa $58 cheki saka zvinotoda kunyatsoronga mazviro kwazvo kuti unge uchibudirira mubhizimusi rehuku, nekuti zveshuwa saturated, asi tinovimba kuti vachabudirira mai. Tochidzokera panyaya yeCovid iyoyi, pamakaenda kumusha gore rapera negore rino, makaona kuti COVID-19 yakabata madzimai zvakadini? Matambudziko akasangana nemadzimai nguva iyo yeCovid.
Matambudziko anga ariko, because like nikada kutaura kumusha mangu inini ndobva kumasvingo kwaGutuku. Vakawanda varora vangu inini, most of my brothers vakashaya. Saka iwo pachavo kuti vawane even chikafu chokuti vadye, because vaimbofamba vachienda mugutu muya vachinotengesa zvishoma zvavanazvo. But nenyaya yeCovid yokuti havachakwanisi kufamba kunotengesa zvinhu zvacho, zvakavaomera. And munoziva kuti Zimbabwe haina social services. And kana une vanawo futi vasina mabasa hakuna. Saka COVID yakangowedzera pane.
Saka matambudziko anga agara aripo kudara.
Yeah, sorry, and you maybe ndagarisa kuno kushora.
Aiwa, mabasa. Tinoita tichisanganisa mune chino chirongwa.
Okay, ndanisingazivi.
Aiwa.
Aita yenyu.
Ngoka izvenyu.
Yeah, saka ndokuona kwangu inini, and I think in terms of business, madzimai, kune zvinhu zvakawanda zvinoda kutariswa kuti vanyasobudirira. There's a lot. But we have to work harder. But thanks so much for putting me on this platform.
Tigotarisawo kuti paCovid iyoyi iko zvinezvi pane campaign ye-gender based violence, 16 days of activism against gender based violence, yakatanga musi wa25 November, iri kupera nemusi weFriday. Pakaitika matambudziko mumhuri nenyaya yema-lockdown. Makazvionawo here mumhuri zhinji dzekumasvingo pamakasvikako muchivhakacha?
Kutaura chokwadi ina handina kuzviona, ndaingonzwa chete kuti ndo zviri kuitika. And mostly yairi nyaya yokuti kune vamwe like the breadwinner anenge asina basa. Saka it was tough. Nyaya dzandainzwa, but kuzviona inini chaiko handina kuzviona.
Asi zviriko. Woti mbuyele kuwe Mandlovu. COVID-19. Uhle wena wabuyela wapindela ekhaya ngasikhathi sinye. Kuqhamuka ubhubhane lolo. Luliphambanise okungakanani kubhizimusi empilweni zenu njengabomama?
Yebo. Aya ngo-2011 so bese ngihlalile sibili isikhathi sokufika iCovid. Kodwa ngo-2020 ekuqaleni kwayo iCovid yikho okwahlangana khona lathi lokufoma icooperative yethu leyi. You know, so initially sathi siqalisa sethuka ukuthi isifiso sethu lesi pho sizasiphutsha njani njengoba sokuthiwa asihlaleni ezindlini zethu singenzi lutho singaphumi kodwa somehow ngesilungu bathini, we hit the ground running, saphanga safunda izindlela zokwenza ibhizimusi in a different way. Ngoba thina esasikwazi ukuthi nxa usiyathenga inkomo kumele uhambe ufike endaweni then you make a decision ukuthi ayinkomo le ngiyayithanda kumbe sasesifunda ke ukusebenza zabo lathi sesifunda ukuthi nxa you need to ask the seller.
Regai ndidzokere kwamuri muzvare Sharai. Matimi muda kudzokera kubasa saka handichakubati zvakanyanyisa. Mungotiti zvishomanini rega nditi ngamunditsanangurire, can you just go through, summarize whatever you said in Shona about your life, about when you decided to move from the UK to Canada, what you saw when you visited Zimbabwe last year and this year in this COVID-19 situation?
Okay, I'll briefly summarize what I said.
Okay.
Yeah. Actually, when I left Zimbabwe years back, I won't say which year because I'm so paranoid about my age. So,
aren't you?
Yeah. Because you know what, sometimes when you tell people your age, they discourage you in doing some of the things and say, oh, you're too old. Why are you doing this? So
Yes.
I'm not a person even who celebrates birthdays. I was born and here I am, so I have to move on.
True.
So when I went to UK, when I left Zimbabwe, I even saw some women not being treated well in so many issues, which maybe we can talk about that in some other programs. So when I got to UK, I tried to go to school, of which I did, but I didn't finish. I was trying to go into law school. But I just found life very difficult in the UK. So I thought, you know what, let me try Canada. So when I came here to Canada, I got a job in the bank, which I worked for almost 15 years, but still I wasn't very happy with the way, as a woman, a Black woman, for me to rise in that institution. But I was also very keen on Africa as a continent, the negativity of the continent, and say, I need to know more. Why are we portrayed so negatively? So I got to University of Toronto and enrolled there. Very interesting. Going back to the age, of course, when I'll sit with the young kids having lunch or something, they'll be discussing about their age, 21, 22. And they'll say, what about you, Sharai? How old are you? And I'll say, no, I don't tell people my age. And they'll say, oh, we know how old you are. And I'll say, oh, how old am I? They say 35. And I said, good for you. That's good. Reducing my age so much. Then I said, yeah, that's good. So going forward now, and now, as I said, I am looking forward for my PhD program. And that is driving me to focus more on women, something I never used to have an interest in. But now I'm just so geared up and saying, no, I don't think the world is fair in terms of women. In everything we try to penetrate in this patriarchal, society. So what I can say is my focus is going to be on rural women in Zimbabwe in particular. But of course, you can start a project in Zimbabwe, then it can spread all over Africa when we disregard the borders. Because I'm an advocate of removing borders. Because my undergraduate focused on African studies and indigenous studies here in Canada.
Mm-hmm. And
sorry?
You majored in that as well in your master's?
No, in my master's, I'm in the research stream. So my topic is more on indigenous women of Canada, the natives, and how they can incorporate their traditional knowledge into universities. Because even in Zimbabwe, our own knowledge, the women have got knowledge, those in the rural areas, but they don't have the platform of sharing that knowledge. All we are now focusing on is the Western knowledge.
Your aspirations after you're done with your PhD, your goals, what are they?
My goals are to see rural women being empowered so they can be at the same level as the urban women or the working class. Because they are also working in the rural areas. Just because they're not academics doesn't mean they're not working, or they don't need to be empowered in their own way.
They are working women.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. When you visited Zimbabwe, that will be my last question, and then I'll let you go. When you visited Zimbabwe, you visited last year and this year, and it was in the middle of the pandemic. What effects is the pandemic on the rural women, on the women that you saw in your area, the Masvingo area?
I found out that like those around my village in Gutu, most of them are, I would classify them as small businesses who would go to Gutu and sell their products. But because of COVID, that platform wasn't there. And even if without taking account to know how many women, I find out that most women in my rural area platform are widows. So it means, where are they going to get the money from for the children to go to school? What about for hospital? So it means putting a strain, or maybe a strain on us here to support them. And pandemic, I don't think Zimbabwe had anything, to give to anyone for, just to help them with their everyday living.
Yeah, the social service part of it was really bad. Actually, the civic society are the ones that helped just a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, you are right. I heard about that one, and I saw someone was helping, but it's so poor.
Yeah, it wasn't much. It wasn't much.
It was so poor.
Thank you so much for being my guest on this program. I'll let you go since you said you're still on the job, on the clock.
Yeah, I have to drive almost an hour, so.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, and have a good day.
You too.
Thanks, bye.
Bye. Ndlovu, I come back to you now.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Let's see. Who is Sifiso Ndlovu? What is she doing now in her life?
Right. Where do I start? I'm almost shy now to also talk about where I started, because I'll be showing my age, but I don't mind. I left home in 1988 after my A-levels, in the UK. Maybe after 10 years, but as you know, things change. I started having my own family, which kind of delayed my return to the motherland. And fast forward to 2011, I decided to retire from mental health nursing in England and come back to the motherland, start a new life, start a new career as a farmer. It wasn't always easy, as I illustrated with my disastrous poultry project. But what I also learned along the way is that it's important to persevere. It's important to keep going. It's important to just get started. And also it's important to seek the help of those who have walked the journey that you are walking or that you want to walk. So this is me basically, in a nutshell, a mental health nurse, a mother, a wife turned farmer, a returnee to the motherland. Very happy, no regrets. I am so glad that I made that decision to come back home and start a whole new life at home as a farmer, sharing my experience in my journey, especially with other people or other women in the diaspora who may be considering returning home. I'm very happy to share my journey, to share how I coped or navigated the system, and to reassure everyone that it can be done. It's a very rewarding experience, if I may say so. But also, it's quite sad in a way, because we are celebrating coming back home when it should be just something very natural to do, that.
Yes. But obviously there were some challenges.
Oh, there were challenges. I'm not saying it was easy. There were challenges. Yes, definitely. There are challenges to returning home. I suppose that's why we sort of clap hands and cheer those people who've taken the leap of faith. And yet it should be something that we just do naturally without even thinking about it. But yes, sadly, yes, we do think about it. A lot of us, we are anxious about coming back home, and we wonder how those who've done it, how they've survived. But people survive, people live here. There are people who've never left home, and life goes on.
So you started off with poultry, chicken,
yes,
and goat, and now into cattle ranching. Can you take us through that journey?
With poultry. Yes, I started off with poultry. As I said, 10,000 chickens. Now, for a beginner, that's actually very unrealistic. I didn't understand the business. I didn't understand the work culture, because it's very different from, managing a farm is very different from managing a ward.
Very true.
Which is what I was, when I was in the UK. I had developed myself, had a position in nursing, but it was completely different coming back and trying to manage a farm. There's certain cultures that are related to working in farm settings, and I had no clue about that. And I would say that was one of my biggest downfall, besides just not knowing anything about chickens. Yes, I had training, because it was a contract. It was an outgrower contract that I had with a big company, and they do offer training, they do offer support, but it's not enough. It's not enough. You just go for 3 days, it was unrealistic. But on the other hand, interestingly, I have a friend, she is also a returnee and has done very well in poultry. She started, I think, with 100. Now she's at 10,000, 15,000, and doing it without even thinking about it. So she did it the right way round. She started small and grew and developed her expertise in poultry. And this is what I would advise anyone who is considering coming back home, because it is completely different. There aren't many of us who are going to come home into employment. Home is very much a self-employment environment. There are different options, but obviously I chose agriculture through, researching and realizing that actually Africa has the potential to turn itself around to a first world economy through agriculture, regardless whether it's through cropping or animal husbandry. The world population will continue to grow. We have the land, we are the continent with the, the majority of arable land. So we are in a very privileged position. I'm saying that farming is the only way for people wanting to return home, for people wanting to invest back home. But for me, it's what I call a no-brainer, because the world population is growing and people need to eat. They will always need, to eat. So that's the approach I took, and I educated myself and developed myself in the area of farming, starting with poultry, which I abandoned immediately. As soon as that thing didn't work out, I said, I never, ever want to do chickens again. So I went into horticulture. I did tomatoes, potatoes, onion, and cabbage. That's what I specialized in. And I absolutely loved it. I always say that, yes, it's difficult. It was difficult to manage farm labor, but I thoroughly enjoyed working with plants in the field. Because of my nursing background, that nurturing aspect in us as nurses, I think that stood me in good stead, because I understood things like, infections, because you get that in your field. You can get one field infecting the other. So I understood infection control, or, we call it biosecurity in farming. And I thoroughly enjoyed that. And I rose to that challenge, trying to think of the field as a ward full of patients, except that the patients were my tomato plants, were my cabbage plants, and they needed taking care of and nurturing, just as you would a patient in a ward. Sadly, nature happens. We were struck by a drought. So I had to rethink, we had to re-strategize. We started looking at different options of farming that didn't demand a lot of water, because all the crops we did are heavy consumers of water. Tomatoes need a lot of water. Potatoes need a lot of water. Cabbage is a huge, huge drinker. So I had to look at other things. Initially, I considered crops such as sorghum, because they don't need that much water. Sugar beans, they don't need that much water. But we stumbled across goats, although we always had goats, for as chewo, we just used to treat goats as chewo. Yes. If you go to the farm at the weekend, you fancy me Suvamba one, Sushinza. But now, it pains me even to do that. It pains me even to do that, because it's now a business. It's now with the goats as an individual farmer. We are really running with goats, because the goats really have the potential to uplift a lot of families, a lot of women into economic empowerment, because they are so doable. They are not as I said, they are not as expensive as buying a cow. They do not demand huge hectares and acres of land. People can do them in their backyard. Rural women can do them from their homesteads. They can come together, work together as a collective, and raise goats and sell goats together, because there's a huge, huge demand for goat meat globally. So the export market is an option, but not yet, because we are not actually meeting local demand in terms of goat meat. As it is, go to any butchery, butchery in Bulawayo, you struggle to find goat meat. You struggle to find goat meat, And then having done
one can never go wrong in
you can never go wrong. Seriously, I'm being very serious. Yes, it's something that anyone can do, but again, the knowledge is very important. Because when you go commercial, the game changes, and you've got to do it properly. Otherwise you'll be wasting your money. You've got to get the knowledge of how to operate that particular business, get the financial understanding of operating that particular business, which is where most people maybe get it wrong, especially with farming. We think we can just do it without doing the numbers. We've got to understand, the figures, the finances involved. We need to educate ourselves. We don't need to go to university to be accountants, but regular updates and talking to people who understand the finances relating to our different enterprises, it goes a long way in making sure you're running a successful, business. So I actually started going commercial with goats before I moved to cattle with the other women, forming this cooperative. We had the cattle as well at the farm, but it was inkomo. Again, inkomo zikhona. If you ask me, what breed do you have? I had no clue. I had absolutely no idea, what breed I had. But with coming together with women who had done it, commercially, we have a lady in our group, she ran a dairy herd, of 300 plus. She has huge, knowledge and experience. Yeah, amazing. So we're starting to learn all that and understanding, breeds and the importance of getting, a good bull in order to change the quality of your herd. Yeah. So I actually started with commercializing my goats. Then now I'm commercializing my cattle through the experience I am having now with these other ladies in our cooperative. I'm also learning and changing the way I'm breeding my cattle because I have a better understanding and a better knowledge. But the cattle, it's a long-term investment. The goats, it's short-term to medium-term, So yeah, in farming, you need something that will give you quick returns and then something that you can live, to grow. But obviously the returns will be good, but it will take a bit longer. And again, it's all new learning for us. It's all new learning, the farming, agriculture, it's new learning for us. When I say us, I mean women and also maybe Black people, because as you know, historically, farming was exclusively white.
Yes.
So we are playing catch up, But what I have found absolutely amazing is how the ex-farmers are so helpful and willing to work with us and teach us the tricks of the trade. Maybe not everyone, but maybe I've been blessed. But one of the, some of the people that really have taught me a lot of the trade is working with neighbors who've had to scale down, obviously, their farms with land reform, which was absolutely the right thing to do. Land reform, was the right thing to do because as it is, more and more of our people are coming into farming. More and more of our youth are coming into farming. And that's very, very important.
Coming back to COVID-19, how did it affect your operations?
With COVID-19, in terms of the lockdown and the limited movement of people, farming was one of those is deemed an essential service, meaning we were allowed to operate as normal. In fact, we were encouraged to operate as normal, but to also respect some of the boundaries, like the curfew, not to travel outside the curfew or not to travel outside of the area where you are operating out of, except to deliver your harvest. So in a way, farming was not that much affected, except that perhaps the shops where we were buying our fertilizers were having to close early. And that was a disadvantage, especially if you're a farmer and you're operating from very far away from town. Like, for example, my farm is 85 kilometers out of town. And if you're trying to beat a 3 o'clock curfew, that was very difficult. That was very challenging.
Any word of encouragement? I think we have exhausted our time. Any word of encouragement to other women who are in the diaspora who would like to come back home and do some of these projects, retiree projects, I would say.
Retiree. A word of advice. Looking at my own situation, I wish I had done it earlier. I wish I had done it when I was much, much younger and I had the energy. So I would say, don't leave it too late, to come home. Don't leave it until you're 60 or 50, because physical strength will not be on your side, as such. So I would encourage people to take a graded approach to coming back home. Start coming home for longer and longer periods instead of maybe the 2 weeks. I know there's travel restrictions with the pandemic, but try coming home for 2 months, for 3 months, for 6 months, for a year, if your job will allow it. Network and link up with people who are in the business that you want to get into. If it's farming, link up with people who are doing farming. If it's retail, the hospitality industry, network with those people who are already in the business, and identify businesses that are doing well, because this is where you will learn how to succeed in your own business. Start small. Start with whatever you have, but most importantly, just get started. Do something. If it's poultry you want to go into, start with 10 chickens if you must, especially if you're still in the diaspora. Link up with people who can look after your investment professionally. I do have a company that helps or supports diasporans who want to come back home, especially people in Matabeleland who want to come and invest in Matabeleland. We have a company, an investment company, that manages people's businesses professionally and in an accountable manner. I'm not claiming we are the only ones. There's many now, quite a number of businesses like that. It kind of takes away the way we used to do things back in the day, where we would hand over money to relatives and that money might not be used for its intended purposes and there would be tensions in the family. Yeah. But now we are starting to professionalize these things. People at home, and particularly ex-diasporans, because they've had the experience themselves, are setting up these companies. I see them even in construction, that there's management companies. So you don't have to be sending your money to Malume, who might send photographs of the house next door and say, is it a roof level? Yes. So there's a number of those companies now offering those services to the diasporans, offering confidence to diasporans to come and invest back home, because at the end of the day, ourselves, Zimbabwean, who will uplift ourselves, our families, our relatives, our regions. We have to do it ourselves. You know, back in the day, I think when people were talking about foreign direct investment, FDI, I don't think we ever thought we were within that equation. But now diasporans are the FDIs, you know. Yeah, so
current era.
yes, things have changed, you know, things have changed, you know, so much. We have more faith in our abilities, and we know we can turn things around, you know, ourselves without, you know, waiting for somebody else to identify an opportunity which we've been sitting on all our lives. You know, we really are blessed with resources. It can be done. So yeah, I'm encouraging people to really consider coming back home. Do it slowly, plan it, network with people who've done it. And yeah, the future is bright.
Hayi, ngiyabonga kakhulu. Ele ucina ubakhuthazani omama abalokhe besamile bethikaza ukuthi singaphindela na ekhaya, ngaphumelela yini? Ngamafitshane.
Ngamafitshane, omama, I find ukuthi omama sisebenza kuhle nxa sihlangene. We are very good at working together as a collective. So I'm encouraging omama abasemazweni who are thinking of coming home to network and link up labo mama abakhona ekhaya who are doing what they want to do. Baforme ama cooperative, baforme ama businesses, you know, work together. You know, whether you work at clinic, whether you work at izitolo, whether it's going to farming or manufacturing, or mama, they just have that ability of working well as a collective. Or mama, if we look across Africa, you know, oh mama, they are changing the landscape. Ngokusebenza, you know, ndawonye as a collective. We really have that capacity to change our fortunes by coming together as a collective. And there's a lot to be gained by working together with Omama Abakona Ekaya, because they have a lot to teach us. They understand a lot about the environment. They are on the ground. Tina, Lati SSMs, when we have new knowledge, sesifundile, how to do things differently. So it's about picking the best of both worlds and putting it, you know, together. And
for your own good.
For me, that's a formula. For me, that's a formula, you know, for success.
Yeah. Hayi, mbongile kakhulu. Abazwileyo bazwile. Kodwa ke ngubambileyo kakhulu ukuthi i-gold trenching, you can never go wrong.
No, absolutely not. Ngiyabonga kakhulu ukunginxusa kulolu hlelo.
Yeah, imbongile lami kakhulu. Ngalawo mazwi ke ekaMandlovu sesifike ke emaphethelweni ohlelo lwethu lalamhlanje. Ngilethemba lilukholisile uhlelo lwethu. Lapho ke akade silo unkosikazi Sifiso Ndlovu wakoBulawayo, ongusomabhizimusi, ongumlimi wesifazane, oke wahlala kwesikhathi eside eseNgilande kodwa ke wasecabanga ukuphindela ekhaya. Tinotenda zvikuru muzvare Sharai Masanganise avo vanga vari kuCanada vatanga tiinavo muhurukuro yedu yanhasi muchirongwa Ngatikurukurei madzimai. Tava tangosvika kumagumo echirongwa chedu. Mova nehope dzakanaka. Ndini Praxedes Jeremiah. Lisale valaleli, sidibane ngeviki elizayo ngasikhathi sinye.